Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Blockchain Wayne here. Welcome to another FIO Fam Feature. Now today we're joined by John McLeod. John is our lead public relations. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Wayne. Great to be here.
Awesome. Well, excited to feature all the great contributions everybody is doing to help push FIO along, bring our protocol out to the masses, help drive adoption of crypto in general. So, and you play a vital role in that because getting out, being able to be seen in the market is important. So would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's just so important. There's so much misinformation. It's very hard. This is a multi-trillion-dollar asset that's grown out of nowhere in a decade, and there's just so much misinformation, even in top-tier news outlets. The need for education on this industry and its benefits and its potential is enormous, and there's a lot of noise out there. And my job is trying to cut through that and showcase the benefits of the FIO protocol, why it matters. And I always say that to anyone in this industry. If you're looking to reach a journalist, you have to answer who, what, why, when, how, where. Why is this relevant? Why do readers want to read about this? And right. It's tough with the FIO protocol because it's not some wildly colorful story about selling banana ranchers in Honduras and putting it on the blockchain, or about massive sky-high valuations of Bitcoins and so on, or hacks, all these really sort of colorful stories that grab journalists' attention. This is about how you make blockchain transactions, cryptocurrency transactions and transfers of value easy, reliable, trustful, secure, just how people have confidence in the industry. And it's just so important, sort of finance, essentially, money is a confidence trick. Credit comes from Latin credere, to believe. And if people don't believe or don't have confidence, they don't feel comfortable, they're not going to use it. And this is what we do at FIO. We make it usable, and we make it accessible to anyone. And that's why I'm so excited about it. We have hundreds of millions of people sort of dabbling in crypto on a small scale, but the potential over the next decade is just so exciting, and that's why I'm here.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Before we jump into more about FIO and what you do for FIO, tell us a little bit about your background. What got you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I used to advise a number of sort of financial services companies, asset managers, pension funds, a clearinghouse. And I was always struck, with the banking sector, just how convoluted and slow and time-consuming it was. How it took like 3 working days to transfer money between London and New York, and you could like hop on a plane with a suitcase and you get there in 10 minutes. I mean, it was just madness, or how to sort of clear an equity trade, and you have like clearing houses to guarantee. It's just, with Bitcoin, you can send value in 10 minutes. Just how to have sort of peer-to-peer transactions without the middleman, without all the costs and the friction that we currently have in our financial system, was just really exciting to me. And I started to learn about Bitcoin after the first halving and the massive price spike to $1,000. And then, sort of educate myself bit by bit. And then in 2015, I set up my own public relations consultancy, JA Associates, just to advise, people in this industry. And it's just been an incredible 6 years. I just feel so privileged to met and work with the people I've met and worked with. It's so exciting. I'm constantly learning. There's always something new happening. It's the pace of innovation and change is just breakneck, and it's just so exciting. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just when you think you've learned everything, there's a lot more to learn. So that's definitely interesting story. How you got there? How'd you get introduced to the group at FIO to start working at FIO Protocol?
So I was very lucky. I've worked with Katie Z on a number of projects, and she very kindly introduced me to the team. And I knew very early this was a super high quality project, with really talented people, people with like decades of experience who've worked in all sorts of areas. Some have worked at NASA, some have set up their own shopping cart startups. It really, really high caliber team. And once you've been in the space for as long as I have, you quickly learn to filter out the snake oil salesmen, the cowboys, the sort of like people trying to make a quick buck, and to actually meet a team so dedicated, so focused on a real goal and a real, really sort of focused on how to sort of make cryptocurrencies accessible and easy to use for anyone. It just really spoke to me. And, I think anyone who's been in this space and received cryptocurrency payments or had to make, it's a really stressful experience. And just talking to sort of Luke and David and the team, it's like, wow, this is really important. This is really, it's just so easy just to send a request with a memo. This is what it's about. And it's creating that usability layer so that people just feel confident and not just sending anonymously to this long chain of letters and numbers that you just pray gets there on time. It's just a horrible horrible experience. It's sort of rife with potential for man-in-the-middle attacks and much else. So, it just I was really impressed when I read about the project, and I was really intrigued about some. I really had a confidence talking to the team. And I really wanted to be involved. So
Yeah, likewise. And those stories are constantly still coming today of people making mistakes sending crypto. Sunday, I was walking into a grocery store and ran into a couple I hadn't seen in a while, some friends, and they asked about a mutual friend because they know, they think of me as the Bitcoin guy. So they know that this other guy that we have a mutual friend, he started doing something recently with cryptocurrency. And they were telling me a story of how he made a mistake sending and lost $30,000 worth of crypto. And I was like, yeah, well, that's actually what I do now is working with a protocol that's to prevent that from happening ever, so it's still happening this day. It's still, and whether you've been in the space for 5 minutes or 5 years or 15 years, well, not many people have been in 15 years, but if you've been in the space a while, it's still stressful when you send crypto using the traditional method of copy and pasting that wallet address, making sure there's no errors. Now you've got to make sure it's the right chain, all that stuff.
It's not fair for the average person to have to educate themselves on that. And usability. If you put up barriers to people to use a service or product, you're just going to throw away potential customers and users. And that's why this industry really does need to accept that not everyone's got a degree in computer science or willing to engage and learn. And it's asking too much. Unless you can make it simple and easy, it's not going to take off. And that's why we're here at FIO.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, let's dive into tell us public relations lead at FIO. What does your day-to-day look like as a public relations lead?
Yeah, so my job is making sure that people read about FIO, understand what FIO does, what its purpose is. So, I mean, we often have, sort of announcements of integrations, press releases, those are things we write up and send out. And that's what I call the day-to-day bread and butter public relations. But the value I really add is just, talking to the team and seeing what are the key stories, what are the key themes, and thinking, okay, how do I turn this into a bylined article for Luke or yourself? Or how do I make this an interesting idea? When we talk about sort of NFT signatures and crypto handles, I talk to you why this matters, and then I can sort of pitch a story. And an editor might say, John, that's a great idea. I haven't got time to write it. Can you write 800 words, 1,000 words? Or, John, that's a great idea. Set up a podcast interview. We'd love to talk about this. Or, but that's the real value I add. I do have a network of journalists and contacts, but the real value I add is just how to be creative with your ideas. As I said, these top tier news outlets, they get hundreds and hundreds of press releases, pitches of varying quality. I have to make sure that I reflect the quality of the team and the quality of its ideas and its purpose, and make sure people understand, wow, this is really interesting, and this is something we want to write about and read about and understand. And that's the real value I add for the team, is just taking in the FIO story, how this protocol is applied, how it can be used, and making sure that journalists understand that and are willing to write that up. And it's not easy, it's not a simple sort of like colorful, we're investing in this area. This is actually why usability matters, and it takes a lot of explaining. And I know when I set you up with journalists, that they talk to you for hours. The more they understand, like, wow, this is really important. But you don't get long to pitch an idea, and that's something I have to distill a lot of information into a very short, half a minute, just pitch, or write down a quick pitch, or whatever it might be. And that's not easy, but that's part of the job, and it's a really challenging job in that. But it's testimony to the team and the quality of the FIO protocol, that when people do sit down and listen and say, wow, this is a world-class project, this really is, AAA, Gold Star, really high-quality team. And there are thousands of projects out there, but this really is a genuine high-caliber team with solving a real problem, a very real problem that needs to be solved. So, that's basically in a nutshell what I do for the team.
Yeah, I mean, 2 points on that. I mean, definitely, I don't think most people realize, unless they've worked with a project or dealt with public relations, how competitive the space is, just to be able to, not just write a press release and send it out, but being able to get it featured. Because you're right. I mean, there's just in the cryptocurrency space, there's thousands of them. Some of them have a lot of funding behind them to where it may not be that great of a project or a feature, but they're able to put some money behind it, and we're just FIO Protocol. I tell people all the time, it's not that exciting to the moon pump like people expect, but it's the protocol itself is necessary for all cryptocurrency adoption. And you're right, man. What you mentioned about being able to explain it within a couple of minutes, like in a brief conversation to get people's attention is hard. I can imagine what you're going through because, I'm always going to all these events in person. And a lot of times that's what you've got in front of somebody talking to decide whether or not they want to learn more or not and get your contact information. So it's kind of the same concept. And I've had to tailor that approach. I've learned what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes when I bring other members of the team with me to those events, it's kind of funny to watch them go through that process too, of initially trying to explain it and, just this long drawn out explanation, and then eventually helping them get it down to this is the core of what we do. And then people can ask more and we can go deeper.
Yeah, and it's like when you ask the average person on the street, what does Swift do, or what does Swift or WorldPay or these companies that do, provide the plumbing for the financial services sector and retail banking and so on, it matters, but it's not the most wildly exciting, but it's fundamental. And we're providing, a usability layer that's going to absolutely underpin, different blockchain service providers, wallets, and just create that metadata so, people can interact. Which I think is a really exciting idea. At the moment, we have these walled gardens, between different blockchains, and just how you link that up in an easy way. It's going to be fundamental to whether this industry takes off in the next 10 years and really fulfills its potential.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because just recently I interviewed David Gold, one of our founders, and what caught my attention, you just mentioned walled gardens, and he used that term too when he was talking about as they were developing FIO, it needed to be a decentralized solution. Sure, you could easily build a centralized solution, but that defeats the purpose of taking a decentralized technology and putting these walled gardens around and say, okay, if you want to use it easily, use it within this this confine. And now, as a decentralized protocol, anyone can use it, anywhere, which eliminates, like you mentioned, walled gardens. And it's definitely a good term that people don't realize. We can make payments quick and easy and free in a centralized solution, but that doesn't give everybody the ability to use it.
Yeah, and just how people can come to it on their own terms and see and engage and integrate it. That's what we're doing, and that's there's some great examples of really leading service providers that have really showcased how this protocol can be used and applied. So,
yeah, absolutely. We're seeing new things every day now. Speaking of that, John, so as we before we get to wrap up, tell me we've seen some interesting use cases for FIO recently, some cutting edge things. What maybe not just FIO related, but what within the cryptocurrency space that you see up and coming really excites you?
There's so much. Obviously, the FIO protocol. People often say, blockchain's a solution in search of a problem. What is the point? But I've seen it actually a couple of areas. Actually, I think in the area of remittances, the idea that people have to spend, sending money to their relatives in Latin America, $20, $30. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's hours of work just for transferring. Yeah. This is with the FIO protocol, they can just send it to their relatives and just send a request with a memo like, this is for, that is really exciting for me. I've lived in Latin America for a couple of years, and people do live and work in the US and abroad, and they want to send remittances, and they don't want to have to pay these fees. Sure. There's another project actually in the charity sector that enabled merchants in Venezuela just to, if people can't afford to buy goods, people in Europe or elsewhere can just make a $3, $5, $10 donation to me, and I'll just pass it on. No middlemen, no distribution, no barriers, just, direct aid to people. I think that's really exciting. The charity sector has huge amounts of overheads. No one wants to pay a director to earn a six-figure salary. They want to give it directly. Right. And I think this really does connect directly people. Obviously, it's got a long way to go, but just as an idea of what could be grown in the future. Also, I think the idea of intellectual property, for hundreds of years, artists haven't necessarily been the most commercially aware people. There's countless stories of, artists just getting, given shortchanged or getting ripped off essentially by publishing houses. The Hollywood, there's a term called Hollywood accountancy, where the studios just take all the money, and the people that do the writing of these amazing scripts, or the actors, who because they're not the ones making the money. It's executives and the middlemen. And if you can cut that out, and I think, with intellectual property for creative industries, so many people who can put their intellectual property, their script, their work of art, and people, if they want to use it, if they want to share it, if they want to read it, they can pay for it, or they can pay royalties. I think that's a really exciting area. But again, there's so much to be done, as we've shown with the NFT signatures, the FIO NFT signatures. People just don't understand when they buy an NFT, the data for that NFT isn't on the blockchain. It's actually on a web link, and if that were to go, there's no way to prove whose ownership belongs to. It's really quite shocking. It's a long way to go. But the potential is enormous. The potential of what could happen, where a recording artist can put their song, and yes, their production costs and have to be paid, but if people want to use it, they can pay me directly. I think that's really exciting. So there are many different areas. I think actually all industries, logistics, some companies still, require faxes and telephone calls. That's not necessary, with the blockchain, you'll be able to see and monitor. I think transparency for financial services, we saw in the financial crash in 2008, just the lack of transparency and knowledge of what's actually on the books was just shocking. And that's, a lot of people say that's why Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the white paper to, this is an alternative network. So I think, the potential for blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies in the next decade or 2 decades is incredible. It's so exciting. That's why I'm here. And that's why I'm with the team. And we just don't know how it's going to evolve, or just in the last 3 months, I mean, the news headlines have been extraordinary, but it's, it's not to say that things aren't being proven. There isn't technological information that can be applied in the future to the way we work and the way we interact with each other. So it's a really exciting time. And when people say, oh, it's a solution, it's such a problem, people said that about the internet. They said that about many other
absolutely
technologies. The genie's out of the bottle. How it evolves, no one can predict. But it's going to be very exciting. It's a very exciting space to be in. I'm very, very, very proud to be part of the FIO team.
Yeah, awesome. Well, John, I mean, I love all of that, man. Your passion definitely shines through. I feel the same way about everything you said. It's definitely going to be, we don't know how it's going to shape out, but we definitely know it's going to be a big part of the future. And it's just exciting to play a part in that role. So, John, I want to thank you for your time today, sharing with us who you are in this FIO Fam feature, and a little bit about yourself and your great contribution to the FIO protocol. Any parting thoughts or words before we end it?
No, I mean, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, and as I said, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of misinformation, but our job as an industry is to advocate for the benefits of blockchain technology and how it can be used. And anyone who's used FIO should be an ambassador for FIO, and just say this it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be stressful. FIO is here to make it easy and usable, and it's open to anyone and any service provider. So just educate yourself and really just watch this space, because there's a lot more coming, I'm sure.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks again for joining us today, John. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you on our next FIO Fam feature.
Thanks so much, Wayne. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.